The biggest one in life is that dream home that you can't afford. When you're starting, it looks so far away. Who wants to pay rent for the rest of their life? Rentvesting is a great strategy and the best of both worlds. Live in the home you want while investing in a property that will make your money work hard for you. In this video, we're going to break down what rentvesting is, the pros and the cons, and when you would or wouldn't use it. If you're serious about building a property portfolio, then make sure you're watching till the end and take notes. I'm going to tell you a really cool hack. It's crazy to think you can even do this. And if you haven't already, make sure you click on the follow button below, and also let me know your problems in the comments you have on your journey, and I'll create a video for you. How much effort will you put in? What are you willing to do to get there will determine how far you go. A little bit about me. I'm Scott Lavoon. I'm the founder of Wealth Through Property. I started investing in property at the age of 30 years old while working a full-time job as a tradie. I wasn't on a big income, and within the space of 3 years with the right mentors, I was able to build a system where I was able to retire with over 10 properties and over 100,000 in passive income. Let's break down what rentvesting is to the basics. There are three main factors when you're looking at rentvesting. You have the rent for lifestyle, rent to work, and then you have the investment property. But why would you really want to pay rent and pay off someone else's mortgage? There is no doubt saving for your first deposit ain't easy and can take you some serious time. But if you're rentvesting, it's not all doom and gloom, because you can still live in the home that you want while buying where you can afford. What is rent for lifestyle? Rent for lifestyle is where you want to live in a particular area, but you don't have that big deposit required to buy. Saving for your first deposit is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do in your life. Imagine you're saving up for your first house, but your savings cannot keep up with inflation. So while house prices are growing at a huge rate of 7% per year, inflation and cost of living are growing at a rate of 3 to 4% per year. Your savings account isn't going to keep up with only 2% per year. This can be a serious problem that can cause many problems for people never to purchase the dream house they want. The majority of people have a wage where they can support the rent for their dream house, or even the mortgage repayments if they had a loan that would go with it. But saving for the deposit is the main reason they can't purchase. So if you want to live in an area, but your savings are not going up fast enough, but you have enough deposit to purchase a property in an area with a lower entry point, then rentvesting is the way to go. Now, I'm not saying to go buy a 2 to 300k property tomorrow. How much deposit do you have to begin with? Can you be disciplined enough to build a deposit? Not everyone has the capacity to build a big deposit. Be careful about entering too early with a small deposit and buying a non-investment grade property because they are cheap. Your strategy needs to be right. Your goals need to be realistic. Don't be tricked into buying these schemes of super cheap properties in whoop whoop. There is a reason these properties are cheap and have never performed. Let's look at a real life example. If you're saving up for your first house, the median price in Sydney is $1 million. If you had 10% of that amount, which is $100,000, plus stamp duty of the $40,415, then you are going to be looking at around between $140,000 to $150,000 just to get your foot in the door. Versus if you were to pay for an investment, say in Orange, New South Wales, which is a regional area where you have an entry point of only $400,000, which is a deposit of $40,000 and a stamp duty of $13,475. So to get your foot in the door in the market, you would only need $53,000 to $54,000. Imagine it was going to take you an extra 2 years on top of your savings now to save for that extra deposit. Based on an average amount of 7% compound growth, Orange is expected to grow $58,000 over the next 2 years. This is an extra $58,000 you would have if you had been rentvesting. Not to mention the extra leverage available in an investment grade property, where instead of having to sell, you may potentially have an option to refinance to access the equity and still buy another property. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everyone can wait 2 to 3 years to purchase their first home, but financially it does make sense. Not just that, in Orange the rent would cover the mortgage repayment and the management fee on top of that. So we have covered two factors so far, rent for lifestyle and the investment property. But what about rent for work? Not everybody can live in their chosen area because of work. Some professionals may permanently travel for work. Some might work in areas where it's just not feasible to own a property. It could be a mining town, remote working arrangement, or a holiday resort. Rentvesting is a strategy that you can use in these situations. In a lot of places, two scenarios may happen. One is that you build a deposit quite quickly because there is nothing to spend your money on, or you build a reasonable enough deposit to get your journey going. The second is you may have bought a property where you want to live elsewhere, but it's vacant for long periods and it's not going to do anything. Imagine owning a property elsewhere that is vacant that you can then go out and rent it out. I would recommend that you make sure it is an investment grade property, so it's not in a cheap apartment or a townhouse or in the middle of whoop whoop, but something like that you can rent out, use the rent to pay off the mortgage. Obviously, this is starting to make a little sense now. But did you know there are also benefits in just owning an investment property? The one thing we know about owning investment properties is that they are tax deductible while your principal place of residence isn't. Disclaimer, seek professional advice around anything law and tax related. This is information of general nature and not advice to be taken. When living in your own principal place, you cannot claim the interest on the home loan or expenses. But renting out a property now that it's used for investment purposes, you can pay the mortgage while claiming the interest and and other stuff like maintenance repairs. Have you ever heard of the rent-vest swap method? Imagine you and your neighbor both own a house and have the same style of house while having a beer and having a casual chat, and all of a sudden come to the realization that if you both swapped houses and rented from each other, you both could claim a further tax deduction as both of your properties are now used for investment purposes. Not everybody cares about renovating their properties every few years. You are still living in your lifestyle areas just next door. You still own a house, but you can actually get tax deductions. I know, right? Crazy. But you also have to consider the disadvantages of rent vesting. Renting is not fun. It's not always comfortable, and sometimes it can be a bad experience. Maybe you don't like the landlord, or you're fed up with the carpet and no aircon. You may be paying a premium rent as well as rents that move very upwards very quickly. There is nothing better than coming to your own home, being able to paint a wall just because you can, or having an aircon on just because you want it on. I hear it all the time. People asking, is this a strategy they should consider? And my answer is always the same. It depends on your financial position and your overall goals and strategy. Should you consider this? Maybe, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody can wait 2 to 3 years to purchase their first home. I understand that. Personally, I like the comfort of my own home, and I've never felt comfortable renting. Though what if this could get you in the door quicker? There are a lot of pros and cons to this strategy, so ultimately the decision is up to you. I really hope you enjoyed this guide on how to start when looking to build your team and start your property journey. Please follow, like, share, and comment if you got value, and stay tuned for more.